The wind howled across the ruins of what was once a great human city. Crumbling towers reached toward the gray sky like broken fingers. In the middle of this desolation stood a young man named Django. His hands were rough from years of working as a blacksmith, but now they gripped a weapon meant for war. It was a sword, old yet shining, forged from a rare metal found only on Earth. This sword had been passed down through his family for generations. Most humans no longer used swords. Plasma rifles, drones, and explosives were the common tools of war now. But Django's people had been crushed by the alien empire known as the Zevran Dominion. Humanity's weapons had been destroyed, and their technology was almost gone. Only small groups of rebels remained, hiding in the ruins and caves. Django was one of them. Django stood on a cracked stone bridge looking toward the horizon where a faint green glow marked the presence of a massive alien ship. His friend Mira approached, her face covered with dirt and exhaustion. "You are really going to fight her?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Yes," Django said calmly. Mira stared at his sword. "Against Queen Vela? She commands entire armies. She has weapons we cannot even understand. That blade it is just an old piece of metal." Django's jaw tightened. "It is more than metal. It carries the spirit of my people. It is proof that we are not broken." Mira sighed. She had known Django since childhood. He was always stubborn, always holding on to old stories about honor and courage. "The others think you are foolish," she said softly. "They say you will die before you even reach her." "Maybe I will," Django admitted. "But if I fall, let it be while fighting. The aliens call us weak. They think humans are finished. I want the queen herself to see that she is wrong." Mira looked at him, torn between fear and admiration. She wanted to stop him, but there was something in his eyes that made her believe, even if only a little. Later that night, Django sat by a small fire with a few other rebels. Their leader, an older man named Rovan, unrolled a map made from scraps of cloth and old plastic. "The Queen's ship landed here," he said, pointing to a spot deep inside alien territory. "She is holding a public challenge in the capital city. She says any warrior may face her in single combat. If they win, their people will be free. If they lose, their people will be erased forever." The group fell silent. It sounded like a cruel joke. "It is a trap," one rebel muttered. "She just wants to crush our last hope." Django leaned forward. "I will go." Everyone turned to stare at him. "You?" Another rebel scoffed. "With that old blade? You think you can stand against her armor, her weapons, her speed?" Django met his gaze without flinching. "I am not afraid. This sword was forged by my ancestors when they faced impossible odds. It has survived countless battles. If no one else will fight, I will." Rovan rubbed his beard deep in thought. "It is madness," he said at last, "but maybe madness is what we need. If you can reach the capital and stand before the queen, it might give our people hope even if you fall." Django nodded. "Then I will leave at dawn." As the group prepared supplies, Mira sat beside Django. "Why you?" she asked. "Why not someone stronger, someone with more training?" Django looked down at his sword, the firelight dancing on its surface. "Because strength is not only in muscles or machines," he said quietly. "It is in the heart. The queen thinks humans are weak because she sees only our broken cities. She has never seen the fire that burns inside us." Mira did not answer. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small cloth charm, faded and worn. "Take this," she said. "It belonged to my mother. Maybe it will bring you luck." Django accepted it with a solemn nod. "Thank you, Mira. When I return, I will give it back." "If you return," she whispered. Before dawn, Django stood on a hill overlooking the ruins. The sky was streaked with red and gold as the sun rose. Behind him, a small team of rebels prepared to guide him through hidden tunnels and secret paths. They carried rifles and explosives, ready to fight patrols along the way. As Django tightened the straps on his worn armor, Rovan approached him. "Remember," Rovan said, "this is not just about you. When you face her, you carry the hopes of every human still alive." "I will not forget," Django replied. They set out, moving quickly through the shadows. The journey was dangerous. Alien drones buzzed overhead, scanning the ground for movement. Strange creatures bred by the Dominion prowled the ruins. Django moved silently, his sword ready. When a patrol appeared, he slipped behind them and struck with swift, precise blows. His blade cut through their armor with a sharpness that surprised even his companions. "Maybe that old weapon is not so useless after all," one rebel whispered in awe. As night fell again, the group rested in a hidden cave. Mira sat beside Django, watching him clean his sword. "Do you ever feel afraid?" she asked. "Of course," Django said, his voice calm. "But fear is a sign that what we fight for matters. I do not fight because I believe I cannot lose. I fight because losing is not an option." Mira felt a shiver run through her. For the first time, she truly believed he might succeed. Far above them in the alien capital, Queen Vela prepared for the duel. Surrounded by her generals, she spoke with a confident smile. "The last human warrior will come," she said. "I will face him before the entire Dominion. When he falls, the humans will finally accept their place beneath us." None of her advisors dared to question her. Back in the cave, Django tightened his grip on his sword. He did not know what awaited him, but his resolve burned brighter than ever. No matter what happened, he would show the Queen that humans were not broken. The journey to the arena had begun. The night was cold and silent as Django and his small group of rebels moved through the dark ruins. The broken streets were littered with shattered metal and burned-out vehicles, reminders of battles long lost. Above them, alien drones glided through the sky, their green light sweeping over the ground like watchful eyes. Django walked at the front, his sword strapped to his back. Behind him followed Mira, Rovan, and 3 other rebels armed with rifles and homemade explosives. Each step felt heavier than the last. They were traveling toward the very heart of the Zevran Dominion's power, a place few humans had ever seen and returned from alive. Rovan kept his voice low as he pointed ahead. "The tunnel entrance is just beyond that broken tower. Once we are inside, we can move without being seen by drones." Mira scanned the shadows nervously. "What if there are patrols guarding it?" "Then Django will take care of them," Rovan said with a faint smile. They reached the tower and crouched low behind a collapsed wall. Sure enough, 2 alien soldiers stood near the entrance to a wide, rusted grate that led underground. The aliens were tall and thin, their pale skin glowing faintly under the green lights of their rifles. Django silently drew his sword. Mira grabbed his arm. "Wait," she whispered. "We could try to sneak past." "They will see us," Django replied quietly. "If we are discovered later, more will come. I will handle this." Before anyone could stop him, Django moved like a shadow. He crept behind the first guard and struck quickly, his blade sliding through the alien's armor with a sharp, clean sound. The second guard turned, opening his mouth to shout, but Django was already upon him. A swift slash silenced the second alien before he could raise his rifle. The others stared in stunned silence as Django wiped his blade and motioned for them to follow. "Hurry, more could come." Inside the tunnel, the air was damp and heavy. Water dripped from the ceiling and the narrow walls smelled of rust and decay. They walked in single file, their footsteps echoing softly. Mira walked beside Django. "I have seen you fight before," she whispered, "but never like that. It is as if the sword guides you." Django shook his head. "The sword is just a tool. My hands guide it. My heart gives it purpose." As they traveled deeper, they heard a low humming sound ahead. Rovan raised his hand, signaling everyone to stop. Around the next corner, strange mechanical creatures crawled along the tunnel floor. They looked like giant metal spiders with glowing red eyes. "Scouts," Rovan muttered. "If they detect us, the whole area will be swarming with soldiers." One rebel aimed his rifle, but Django held up a hand. "No gunfire. It will echo." He crouched low, studying the machines. "I will draw them away. When they chase me, you destroy them with the explosives." Mira's eyes widened. "That is too dangerous." "All of this is dangerous," Django said simply. Then, without hesitation, he grabbed a loose piece of metal from the ground and tossed it down a side tunnel. The sharp clang echoed loudly. The spider machines immediately turned and scuttled toward the noise. As they passed, Django leapt out from the shadows, his sword flashing. He cut through one of the machines in a single blow, sparks flying. The others gave chase, their sharp legs clattering against the stone floor. Django sprinted ahead, leading them into the trap. "Now!" Rovan shouted. The rebels hurled their explosives, and the tunnel filled with a deafening blast. Pieces of broken machines rained down. Django emerged from the smoke, coughing but unharmed. Mira ran to him. "You could have been killed, but I was not," Django said calmly. "Now we move before more come." Hours passed as they navigated the maze of tunnels. They rested briefly in an old underground station, eating dried rations and drinking from metal flasks. Rovan spread out his map again. "We are close to the surface," he said. "Beyond this point, the tunnels end. The capital city lies just above us," Mira frowned. "How do we get inside the city without being seen?" Rovan pointed to a symbol on the map. "There is an old service hatch near the city's edge. It was once used by human workers before the aliens conquered this place. If it still works, it will bring us up near the arena." When they reached the hatch, they found it covered in vines and dirt. It took Django and two others to force it open. A rush of cold night air greeted them as they climbed to the surface. The sight before them stole Mira's breath. The alien capital stretched out like a sea of glowing towers and floating platforms. Green lights pulsed through the streets and strange flying vehicles zipped through the air. At the very center stood the arena, a massive circular structure that glowed like a jewel in the darkness. "That is where the Queen waits," Django said, his voice steady. As they crept toward the city, they blended with the shadows, moving carefully between buildings. Alien citizens, tall and elegant, moved through the streets, their voices humming in a language the humans could not understand. Near the arena gates, they found a safe hiding spot beneath a bridge. Rovan gave Django a final look. "This is as far as we go. From here you must enter alone. If you fall, humanity falls with you." Mira stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "Please come back to us." Django placed the small cloth charm she had given him around his wrist. "I will return," he promised. He walked to the arena gates where alien guards waited. One of them scanned him with a strange device. The guard's expression twisted into something between amusement and curiosity when he saw Django's simple sword. "The human wishes to challenge the Queen," Django said loudly, his voice carrying through the crowd. A ripple of laughter spread among the aliens as the gates opened. Django stepped inside, his heart steady and his grip firm on his sword. Far above, in the royal chambers, Queen Vela smiled as she watched the human warrior on a viewing screen. "At last," she said. "Let the final duel begin." Django stood alone in the arena, ready to face the most powerful being in the galaxy. The journey was over. The true test was about to begin. The arena was unlike anything Django had ever seen. It stretched far and wide, its walls made of shining black stone that seemed to pulse with light. Holographic images floated above the stands, showing the faces of spectators from all over the Dominion. Thousands of alien citizens filled the seats, their voices creating a strange humming chorus that echoed through the air. At the center of the arena was a wide, open platform. Django stood there alone, his boots sinking slightly into the smooth, polished surface. His sword hung at his side, its silver blade catching the glow of the strange alien lights. Around him, the crowd's laughter grew louder. They pointed at him, their sharp features twisting with mockery and amusement. "He is so small," one alien voice boomed from the stands. "He brings a piece of metal to fight our queen," another voice said. "This is the last warrior of Earth? Pathetic." Django ignored them. His heart pounded in his chest, but his face remained calm. He had expected this. The aliens saw him as nothing more than entertainment, a weak human daring to challenge their ruler. Then the ground shook. A deep, rhythmic beat filled the arena like the heartbeat of a giant beast. The crowd fell silent. From a massive gate at the far end of the arena, a figure appeared. Queen Vela. She was taller than any alien Django had seen, her form both graceful and terrifying. Her armor shimmered with green and gold, glowing with an inner energy. Two long, curved energy blades were strapped to her sides, their edges humming with deadly light. A crown of crystal-like spikes adorned her head, marking her as ruler of the Dominion. The crowd erupted in cheers as she walked forward, each step measured and powerful. When she reached the center of the arena, she stopped and looked down at Django. Her piercing violet eyes seemed to see straight into his soul. "So," she said, her voice amplified by hidden speakers, smooth yet commanding, "this is the final warrior of Earth. Tell me, human, what is your name?" Django raised his head. "I am Django, son of the blacksmith Arin, defender of my people." The queen tilted her head slightly as if amused. "Defender? You stand before me with nothing but a blade made of dead metal, while I wield the weapons of stars. Your people have fallen, your cities lie in ruin, and still you cling to this symbol of a forgotten past." Her gaze shifted to his sword, and her lips curled into a mocking smile. Is that truly the best weapon your kind could bring against me? It looks like a relic fit for display in a museum. The crowd laughed, their voices rising like a wave. The sound echoed painfully in Django's ears, but he held his ground. This sword carries the spirit of my people, Django said firmly. It was forged in the fires of our homeworld. It has been passed down through generations of warriors who never surrendered, even when defeat seemed certain. Queen Vela chuckled softly. How quaint. You believe spirit can stand against power? Very well, human. I will show you the truth of the galaxy. This duel will be short, but I promise to make it memorable. She turned to the crowd and raised her hand. People of the Dominion, witness the end of the human dream. Watch as I crush the last ember of their defiance. The arena shook with the roar of alien voices chanting her name. Vela drew her energy blades and they flared to life with a high-pitched hum. The glowing edges crackled with deadly energy. Django slowly unsheathed his sword, the sharp metallic sound almost swallowed by the noise of the crowd. For a moment, the two opponents simply stood there sizing each other up. Vela's stance was relaxed, confident, as if she believed Django posed no threat at all. Django's grip was steady, his breathing slow and controlled. The queen moved first. With incredible speed, she dashed forward, her blades a blur of green light. Django barely raised his sword in time to block the first strike. The impact sent a shockwave through the platform, nearly knocking him off his feet. Vela laughed as she pressed her attack. Is this all, human? You are slower than I expected. Django gritted his teeth and focused. He remembered his training, the lessons his father had taught him. Do not chase strength. Let strength come to you. He stepped back, deflecting each strike with precise movements. Sparks flew each time his ancient blade clashed with her energy weapons. The crowd gasped when Django managed to parry a particularly strong blow, sending Vela stumbling back a single step. For the first time, her smile faded slightly. This blade, she murmured, glancing at his weapon. Interesting. It should have been destroyed on the first strike. Django used the moment to counterattack. He swung his sword in a wide arc, forcing Vela to leap back. The crowd roared in shock. A few aliens even rose to their feet, no longer laughing. Vela's expression hardened. Perhaps this will be more entertaining than I thought, she said. The fight intensified. Vela's movements became sharper, faster. Django dodged and blocked, his body aching from the effort. Sweat dripped down his face, but he did not falter. With each clash, he felt the weight of his people's hopes pushing him forward. The crowd's tone began to change. Their laughter turned to murmurs of surprise. Whispers spread through the stands. Could a human actually stand against their queen, even for a few moments? Vela paused briefly, her chest rising and falling with excitement. She raised her blades high and addressed Django. You fight well for a creature of a dying world. Tell me, Django, what drives you? Is it revenge? Pride? Foolish hope? Django lifted his sword and pointed it at her. I fight because my people deserve to live free. You call us weak, but strength is not only in weapons or numbers. It is in the will to stand even when all seems lost. The crowd fell silent at his words. Even Vela's eyes flickered with something unreadable. Then, slowly, she began to smile again. Very well, human. Show me the true strength of your kind. But know this, I will not hold back. As the crowd erupted once more, Django tightened his grip on his sword. The mocking laughter was gone now, replaced by a tense energy that filled the arena. For the first time, it felt like a true battle, one that would decide the fate of an entire world. The duel had only just begun. The arena trembled as the battle began in full force. Queen Vela lunged forward with terrifying speed, her twin energy blades glowing bright green as they sliced through the air. Django barely blocked the first strike, the impact shaking his arms to the bone. The crowd erupted in a deafening roar, their voices echoing off the towering black walls. Django slid backward, his boots scraping against the polished surface of the arena floor. He steadied himself, raising his sword. His breaths came quick and shallow, but his mind was calm. He remembered his father's words. A warrior's greatest strength is not his weapon, but his focus. Vela smirked, circling him like a predator. "You move better than I expected, human," she said, her voice sharp and commanding. "But skill will not save you. You fight a queen who has defeated hundreds of champions." Django said nothing. He adjusted his stance, waiting for her to strike again. She moved in a blur, her first blade slashing high while the second swept low. Django twisted sideways, blocking the lower strike and leaping back from the upper. Sparks flew as metal met energy, and the smell of burning filled the air. The crowd gasped as Django rolled to his feet unscathed. "You are quick," Vela admitted, narrowing her eyes. "But speed fades. Power endures." With a sudden motion, she drove one blade into the ground. A surge of green energy burst from it, racing across the arena floor like a wave. Django dove aside just in time, the energy passing under him and leaving a smoking trail where it struck. The spectators roared their approval, chanting the queen's name. Django rose to one knee, his sword glowing faintly under the arena's strange lights. He glanced around, taking in his surroundings. The arena was not just a battlefield. It was a trap designed for the queen's advantage. Smooth walls left him no cover. Above him, glowing panels shifted positions, creating blinding flashes meant to disorient challengers. Vela charged again, her blades a storm of light. Django blocked and parried, each strike sending jolts of pain up his arms. She was stronger than he imagined, and every blow felt like it might shatter his sword. But his weapon held firm, forged from the rarest earth metal, unyielding against the queen's alien energy. The crowd began to notice. Murmurs spread through the stands as they saw Django's sword withstand what should have been impossible. Vela noticed too. Her strikes became more forceful, almost desperate. "What is this blade you carry?" she demanded between blows. "It should not exist, tell me." "This sword was forged by my people," Django said, his voice steady even as sweat dripped from his brow. "It carries the will of every warrior who came before me. You cannot break it, just as you cannot break the spirit of humans." His words rang across the arena, silencing some of the mocking voices in the crowd. A few aliens leaned forward, their expressions no longer amused but intrigued. Vela's face hardened. "Then I will break you." She launched herself high into the air, spinning as she descended. Django braced himself and raised his sword. At the last second, he shifted his stance and deflected her strike to the side. The force of the impact sent cracks spidering across the arena floor. Vela stumbled, momentarily off balance. Seizing the opening, Django swung his sword in a wide arc. The blade grazed her armor, leaving a glowing mark. The crowd gasped loudly, their shock filling the silence that followed. The queen's eyes widened for a split second before narrowing with fury. She leapt back, touching the mark on her armor. When she looked at Django again, there was no trace of amusement, only cold, focused anger. "You dare wound me," she hissed. "You mock my people," Django replied, his voice ringing clear. "I will not be silent while you destroy them." Vela's blades flared brighter, green energy swirling around her like a storm. Then witnessed the full power of a queen. She attacked with a speed Django could barely follow. Each strike was faster, sharper, more relentless than before. Django blocked as best he could, his body aching, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Still, he refused to yield. The fight became a blur of motion. Metal clashed against energy, sparks and green light filling the air. Django's mind focused on survival, his instincts guiding him through the storm. He ducked, spun, and countered, each movement fueled by the memory of his ruined homeland and the faces of those he fought to protect. At one point, Vela managed to slice across his shoulder. Django staggered, pain searing through him, but he did not fall. Instead, he tightened his grip and pushed forward with renewed determination. Seeing him still standing, the crowd's mood shifted again. Their earlier laughter had vanished, replaced by awed silence. Whispers spread among them. Could this human truly challenge their queen? Django knew he could not defeat her by strength alone. He glanced around the arena, searching for any advantage. His eyes caught on the tall energy pillars surrounding the battlefield. During the earlier wave attack, he had noticed how the queen's strikes interacted with them. A plan formed in his mind. As Vela charged once more, Django deliberately positioned himself near one of the pillars. He blocked her first strike, then sidestepped her second. At the perfect moment, he ducked low, forcing her third strike to hit the pillar behind him. The pillar absorbed the energy and then exploded in a burst of light. The shockwave knocked Vela off balance. Django did not hesitate. He lunged forward, his sword flashing in a decisive strike. Vela barely managed to block, but the force of his blow sent her sliding backward across the floor. Gasps and cries erupted from the crowd. For the first time, Django stood tall while the queen staggered. Vela's breathing grew heavy as she stared at him. Slowly, a strange smile spread across her face. Not mocking this time, but curious, almost respectful. You surprise me, human. Few have pushed me this far. Django tightened his grip on his sword. His arms trembled from exhaustion, but his spirit burned bright. This is only the beginning, he said. The crowd held its breath, torn between loyalty to their queen and the awe they felt for the human challenger. Vela raised her blades again, her expression fierce. Then show me what the last warrior of Earth can truly do. As they prepared for the next clash, Django knew this battle was no longer just about survival. It was about proving to an entire galaxy that humanity would not bow, no matter the odds. The arena floor was cracked and scorched, smoke rising from the shattered energy pillars. Django stood in the center, his chest heaving, his sword glowing faintly in his trembling hands. Across from him, Queen Vela straightened slowly. Her golden-green armor bore a clear slash where Django's blade had struck earlier, a mark no one had ever managed to leave before. The crowd was silent, their earlier cheers replaced by stunned whispers. Many leaned forward, wide-eyed, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. Queen Vela tilted her head, her sharp violet eyes locked on Django. There was no mockery now, only sharp curiosity. You are unlike the others, she said, her voice carrying through the arena. Every challenger before you fell in minutes, yet you stand even after facing my full strength. Django tightened his grip on his sword. His shoulder burned from the cut he had taken, and his legs felt heavy as stone, but he refused to kneel. I told you, he said through clenched teeth. Humans are not weak. You see ruins and think we are broken. But strength is not only in weapons or numbers. It is in the will to fight, even when the world says you will lose. Vela studied him for a moment. Then, to everyone's shock, she laughed. Not the cruel, mocking laugh from before, but a sound filled with genuine amusement and admiration. At last, she said, her voice softer now. At last I have seen what I came for. Django frowned, confused. What do you mean? Vela lowered her blade slightly. You think this duel was meant to destroy you, she said. But that was never my true purpose. I did not come here to wipe out humanity. I came to test it. The crowd erupted in gasps and murmurs. Django's eyes widened. Test us? Yes, Vela said, stepping closer. The Zevran Dominion has conquered many worlds. Most races chose to bow before us without resistance. They accepted our rule and gave up their pride. But humans, you resisted. Even when your cities burned, even when defeat was certain, you fought on. It fascinated me. I wanted to know if there was more to your defiance than desperation. She gestured to his sword. So I declared this challenge not to humiliate you, but to see if even a single warrior among you could stand against me. Django's mind raced as he tried to process her words. The fight, the mocking laughter, the taunts, it had all been part of her plan. You made a game of our suffering, he said, his voice heavy with anger. No, Vela said firmly, her tone suddenly serious. If you had failed here today, your people would have been given a choice, to join the Dominion as servants, safe but powerless. But you have not failed. You have shown me something rare. She pointed at him, her violet eyes blazing. You have shown me a spirit that refuses to die. The crowd grew louder, their voices rising in excitement and confusion. Some cheered their queen's words while others shouted in protest. Never before had she spoken of another race with such respect. Django's breath came faster. So what happens now? Vela slowly sheathed her blades, the humming energy fading to silence. Now I make my decision. Humans will not be erased, nor will they be forced into servitude. From this day forward, they will have a place within the Dominion as equals. Your people will rise again, not as conquered slaves, but as allies. The crowd gasped again, their voices swirling like a storm. Many could not believe what they were hearing. Django stared at her, stunned. You would do this? After all the destruction, all the battles? Vela's expression softened. Strength must be recognized even when it comes from an enemy. I mocked your sword at the beginning because I wanted to see if you would falter, if you would let the scorn of others weaken your resolve. But you did not. You kept fighting even when the galaxy laughed at you. She stepped even closer until she stood only a few feet away. Tell me, Django, why did you fight so fiercely even knowing you might die here? Django swallowed hard. He thought of Mira, of Rovan, of the ruined cities of Earth and the countless lives lost. His voice shook, but his words were clear. Because someone had to stand. Even if I fell, someone had to show you that humans are more than you think. I wanted to give my people hope. For a moment, silence filled the arena. Then slowly, Vela nodded. You have done more than that. You have given them a future. The crowd erupted into wild cheers and shouts. Many aliens now chanted Django's name, their earlier scorn replaced with awe. At that moment, Mira and the rebels appeared near the edge of the arena, having forced their way past the confused guards. Mira's eyes filled with tears as she saw Django still standing. She ran to him, clutching his uninjured arm. You did it, she whispered. You actually did it. Django's knees nearly buckled from exhaustion, but he stayed upright. I only stood, he said softly. The Queen. She chose to spare us. Vela turned to face the crowd, her voice booming across the arena. Let it be known throughout the Dominion. Humanity has proven itself. From this day forward, their worlds will be rebuilt, their voices heard. The war is over. The crowd roared with approval. Some alien generals looked displeased, but none dared to challenge her decree. Django stared at Vela, still trying to understand everything. Why reveal this now? He asked quietly. Why not simply attack us or leave us alone? Vela's lips curved into a small, mysterious smile. Because power without understanding is meaningless. I do not seek to rule lifeless slaves. I seek to unite worlds with strength and spirit. And now, thanks to you, humanity has proven it possesses both. She extended her hand toward Django. Rise, champion of Earth. Stand beside me, not as a conquered enemy, but as a symbol of what your people can become. Django hesitated, then gripped her hand firmly. His sword gleamed in the arena lights, no longer a relic mocked by the galaxy, but a symbol of defiance and hope. For the first time, Django felt the weight of his journey lift. His fight had not been in vain. Humanity's future was no longer one of ashes and chains, but of rebuilding and rising stronger than ever. As the crowd continued to cheer, Django looked to Mira and Rovan. We are going home, he said, his voice steady with pride. The arena, once a place of mockery, now stood as the birthplace of a new alliance that would change the galaxy forever. The arena was still echoing with cheers, but Django felt uneasy. Queen Vela's words had ended the battle, yet deep inside, he sensed the war was not truly over. As Django stood beside Vela, Mira and Rovan approached, both of them wary. Mira's eyes darted to the alien queen. Django, are you sure we can trust her? She whispered. Django tightened his grip on his sword. I don't know, he admitted. But for now, she's our only hope. If she truly honors her promise, humanity can rise again. If not... His voice trailed off, the unspoken threat clear. Vela turned to face them. You doubt me, she said calmly, as though reading their thoughts. I expected this. Words alone cannot erase the pain my armies have caused. She gestured toward the towering gates of the arena. Come with me. There is something you must see. Reluctantly, Django followed her, Mira and Rovan close behind. The crowd parted in silence as the group walked through the vast corridors of the Dominion Palace. Django noticed the way some alien soldiers glared at him with thinly veiled hatred. Though the Queen had spoken of peace, it was clear not everyone shared her vision. They entered a grand chamber lined with holographic maps of the galaxy. A massive circular table glowed in the center, displaying dozens of planets, including Earth. Vela placed her hand on the table, and the projection shifted to show a series of red symbols flashing around several worlds. These are the strongholds of the Dominion's War Council, she explained. My word is law here on this planet, but beyond its skies there are those who oppose me. They see your survival as weakness. They will not accept humans as equals. Mira's eyes widened. You mean they'll keep attacking us? Yes, Vela said grimly, unless we stop them. That is why I need you, Django. She turned to face him directly. Your victory today was witnessed by millions across the Dominion. Your strength has become a symbol not just to humans, but to others who are oppressed. If we move quickly, we can rally them. Together, we can end the old ways of conquest forever. Rovan frowned. And what happens if you fail? What happens if those generals turn against you? Vela's gaze hardened. Then there will be war unlike any you have ever seen. Django looked at the glowing map, his thoughts heavy. He had dreamed only of saving Earth, of defending his people. Now the fate of entire worlds was being placed on his shoulders. Why me? He asked quietly. Why not one of your own warriors? Vela stepped closer. Because they fear me, but they will follow you. You are living proof that strength can come from defiance, not just domination. They mocked your sword, yet you stood against me and lived. That story will ignite hope in ways my voice alone cannot." Before Django could answer, a sudden alarm blared through the chamber. Red lights flashed along the walls and a voice shouted in the alien tongue. Vela's expression darkened. "What's happening?" Mira cried, clutching Django's arm. Vela turned to a nearby console, her fingers flying across its surface. "The War Council has struck first," she said. "One of their fleets has entered orbit. They are attacking the outer defense rings." Rovin's face went pale. "They're here already." The Queen's voice sharpened like a blade. "They wish to kill you, Django, before you can become a symbol. If they succeed, your people will be enslaved again and my rule will crumble." Django's heart pounded. "Then we fight," he said firmly. Vela nodded, a fierce light in her eyes. "I will command the palace guard, but the Council's assassins will target you directly. You must survive no matter the cost." She handed him a small device glowing with pale blue light. "This beacon will call my elite warriors to your side. Use it wisely." The group raced through the corridors as the palace shook from distant explosions. Alien civilians fled in panic while soldiers rushed to defensive positions. Mira clutched her blaster tightly, her fear masked by determination. As they reached a fortified hangar, Vela stopped and turned to Django. "This is where our paths must separate for now. I will hold the skies. You must protect the heart of the palace." Django nodded, gripping his sword. "We'll keep the enemy from reaching you." Vela placed a hand on his shoulder. "Do not fall, champion of Earth. The fate of many worlds depends on you." Then she leapt onto a sleek starfighter, its engines roaring to life. The moment she departed, a squad of alien assassins burst into the hangar, their armor dark and jagged. Their leader pointed at Django, his voice hissing like venom. "Kill the human!" The battle exploded into chaos. Django swung his glowing sword, cutting through the nearest attacker with a single strike. Mira fired her blaster with precise shots, while Rovin used a salvaged Dominion shield to block enemy fire. But more assassins poured in, their skill and numbers overwhelming. Django's arms ached and his breath came in ragged gasps, but he refused to retreat. "They want me alive or dead," Django shouted over the clash of weapons. "Stay close." The assassins snarled, circling them like predators. One lunged at Mira, but Django intercepted the blow, his sword clashing against twin daggers. Sparks flew as they fought. Suddenly, the beacon at Django's belt flared. A squad of Vela's elite warriors arrived, their golden armor shining brightly. They charged into the fray, cutting down the assassins with disciplined precision. The hangar fell silent at last, littered with bodies and smoking wreckage. Django collapsed to one knee, exhaustion threatening to overtake him. Mira knelt beside him, her hands trembling. "We barely survived that," she said. Rovin scanned the corridor warily. And this was just the first wave. Django forced himself to stand. "We have to reach the palace heart. If they destroy it, Vela's command will fall apart." As they moved deeper into the palace, Django felt the weight of his destiny heavier than ever. He had wanted to save his world, but now he was fighting for countless others. Behind them, the war drums of the Dominion's rebels echoed through the halls. The true battle for the galaxy had begun. The corridors of the Dominion Palace were quiet now, the echoes of battle fading into the distance. Django, Mira, and Rovin walked cautiously through the halls, their eyes alert for any remaining threats. The palace, once a place of fear and power, now felt strangely peaceful. Outside, the sky was a deep violet, streaked with the last trails of the departing warships. Django paused at a large observation window overlooking the alien city. The towers glowed softly and flying vehicles moved like glowing insects between them. He could see citizens beginning to emerge from their homes, curious and cautious after the chaos. "It's almost beautiful," he said quietly. Mira stood beside him, still holding her blaster, though her hands no longer shook. "It feels different. Like the city is breathing again." Rovin nodded. "The Queen's command has changed everything. For the first time, the Dominion will see humans not as enemies, but as allies." Django turned his gaze toward the horizon, thinking of Earth. The ruined cities, the empty streets, the people who had hidden for years, they would finally have a chance to rebuild. He felt a deep sense of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Today he had not only fought for survival, but for the hope of a future. A soft sound behind them made him turn. Queen Vela approached, her expression calm but her eyes sharp as ever. You have done more than I expected, Django, she said. Your courage has changed the course of history. Humans will have their place among the Dominion, not as servants, but as equals. Django bowed slightly, a mixture of respect and relief in his voice. Thank you, Your Majesty. I only did what I had to do for my people. Vela studied him for a long moment. You did more than fight. You inspired hope. That is something even my strongest soldiers cannot do. Your people will remember this day for generations. Mira stepped forward. Will we really be safe now? Vela nodded. Yes. The War Council has been disbanded, and the remaining generals have pledged loyalty to the new vision. There will be resistance, but it will be manageable. You have my word. Django felt the weight of relief lift slightly from his chest. He had fought and risked everything, and now there was a chance for lasting peace. But he knew that rebuilding would not be easy. Then we have work to do, Django said firmly. We must prepare our people, rebuild our cities, and ensure that humanity never again falls so far. Vela smiled. And you will not be alone in this. We will provide guidance, technology, and support. But the courage, the determination, must come from you and your people. That is something no alien can give. Days turned into weeks as humans began returning to Earth, guided by the Dominion's ships and protected by Allied forces. Cities that had once been silent and broken now buzzed with life. New buildings rose alongside the old, a symbol of the blending of past and future. Django returned to his home village, where he was welcomed as a hero. Families who had hidden in caves and forests came out to see him, children staring in awe at the man who had faced the alien queen and lived. He walked among them, his sword strapped to his back, a symbol of hope and resilience. Mira helped organize the rebuilding efforts, working with humans and aliens alike. Rovan trained new warriors, teaching them not just how to fight, but how to lead and protect their communities. Django's presence inspired everyone, and slowly, the fear that had gripped humanity for so long began to fade. One afternoon, Django visited the new council hall, a massive structure built from a mix of human and alien design. He placed his sword in a special display at the center, its blade gleaming under the light. A plaque beneath it read, "To the courage that will never yield, to humanity's spirit." Citizens and leaders gathered around, young and old, human and alien alike. They bowed their heads in respect, honoring not only Django's bravery but the enduring strength of humanity. Vela arrived to stand beside him. She looked out over the hall, her face softening. You have done well, Django. You have given your people something priceless. Not just survival, but dignity, hope, and the knowledge that they can rise stronger than ever. Django nodded, feeling a rare sense of peace. We have a long way to go, but for the first time I believe we can achieve it. Outside, the sun rose over the recovering cities of Earth. Its golden light reflected off new towers, streets, and gardens. Humans walked alongside their new allies, working together to rebuild what had been lost. Children laughed in the open squares, unaware of the darkness that had once surrounded them. Django stood on a hill overlooking the city, his sword strapped to his back. Mira and Rovan stood beside him, both smiling. It feels like a new beginning, Mira said softly. Yes, Django replied, his eyes shining with determination. A dawn where humanity will never again be forgotten. A dawn where we rise not just to survive, but to thrive. Vela approached, placing a hand on his shoulder. And the story of today will be told for generations. Humanity's spirit has been proven, and the galaxy will remember it. Django looked at his people below, at the children, the workers, the rebuilding cities. He smiled. The sword on his back was no longer just a weapon. It was a symbol of courage, defiance, and hope. Together, humans and aliens stood on the threshold of a new era. A new dawn had come, and this time humanity would rise stronger than ever. The future was theirs to shape, and Django, the last human warrior, would lead them into it.